There are doors that seem to be opened by God, but they were flung wide open to trap you. Not everything that comes easily is a blessing. Not everything that glitters comes from heaven, and not every opportunity is an answer to prayer. Before we continue, if this type of content helps you gain more spiritual discernment, subscribe to the channel now, because here we don't talk about what's comfortable, we talk about what saves. There is a truth that few people have the courage to face. The enemy also knows how to imitate paths that seem right. The Bible already warned, there is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. Proverbs 14:12. And that's where many people get lost. It wasn't out of rebellion, it was out of confusion. He thought he was God, when he wasn't. First, that opportunity that pushes you away from your peace. It seems like a blessing. Open door, quick response. Everything falling into place. But there's a catch. You lose your peace of mind, you accept. But something inside you tightens. You try to justify it, but the Spirit does not rest. And the Bible is clear. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Colossians 3:15. If there is no peace, it is not God's government. Warning sign, constant anxiety, restlessness, a need to constantly convince oneself that one made the right choice. Consequence, spiritual exhaustion, mental confusion, distancing from the voice of God. Practical application, learn to respect the discomfort of the Spirit. Not everything that makes sense in the mind is aligned with heaven. A phrase for you to remember: peace is not a detail, it's direction. Second, relationships that start out too intense and distance you from who you were with God. It feels like a blessing, a strong connection, raw emotions. But then, suddenly, you pray less, you read the word less, you adapt, you fall silent, you get lost. And when you realize it, you're more connected to that person than to God. The Bible says, do not be unequally yoked. Warning sign, you need to lower your faith to maintain the relationship. Consequence, loss of spiritual identity, emotional dependence, emptiness. Practical application, any relationship that distances you from God did not come from Him, even if it seems perfect. Powerful statement. Whoever distances you from God has never been an answer to prayer. If this made sense to you, comment below, I choose to discern, and leave a like, so this video reaches more people who need to wake up. Third, quick promises that require silent shortcuts. It seems like a blessing, rapid growth, immediate results. But there's a hidden price, a slight detour, a harmless concession, and that's how it begins. Jesus was tempted in exactly this way. All this I will give you, if you will bow down and worship me. Matthew 4:9. Shortcuts have never been the language of God. Warning sign, you need to ignore principles to move forward. Consequence, guilt, loss of spiritual authority, guilty conscience. Practical application, if achieving something requires you to compromise your values, that doesn't come from God. Direct phrase, what starts wrong never ends in peace. Bedroom, environments that make you thrive on the outside and wither on the inside. It feels like a blessing, growth, recognition, evolution, but his soul is weary. You smile, but it's empty. You achieve, but you don't feel God. And Jesus already asked, what good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Mark 8:36. Warning sign, external success accompanied by spiritual exhaustion. Consequence, coldness, disconnection from God, loss of purpose. Practical application, do not trade your presence with God for any kind of growth. Striking phrase, not all growth is life. Fifth, habits that seem small, but begin to dominate you. It seems harmless, something mild, something common, but gradually, it becomes a necessity. Then it becomes an addiction, and when you realize it, you've already lost control. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Warning sign, you find it difficult to stop. Consequence, emotional enslavement, loss of spiritual sensitivity. Practical application: watch what is silently growing within your routine. Powerful phrase: what you don't control today controls you tomorrow. Sixth, compliments that inflated his ego but stifled his humility. It feels like a blessing, recognition, validation, but you start to depend on it. He starts acting to be seen, not to please God, and without realizing it, he trades purpose for applause. The Bible warns, pride goes before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. Warning sign: constant need for approval. Consequence: spiritual vanity, silent downfall, distance from God. Practical application: constantly remember who you were without God and who you are because of Him. Direct phrase: those who live for applause fall into silence. Seventh, decisions that seem urgent but cannot wait. It seems like a blessing, a unique opportunity, now or never. But God doesn't work under pressure. God doesn't rush processes. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Warning signs: pressure to decide quickly, fear of losing, anxiety, consequence, hasty choices, regret, burnout. Practical application: everything that comes from God endures time, prayer, and confirmation. A phrase to remember: what belongs to God doesn't need despair. The Bible says in 1 John 4:1, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. In other words, not everything that comes to you has a divine origin, and that includes opportunity, relationship, invitations, decisions, sensations. Not everything that touches your life came from heaven. And when you don't understand that, you begin to live a confused faith. A faith that accepts everything. A faith that adapts to everything. A faith that is easily lost. But today is a call to break with that. You weren't called to live in confusion. You were called to live guided, and there is a huge difference between those two things. Those who live in confusion react. Those who live guided discern. Those who live confused get lost in feelings. Those who live guided stand firm in the truth. And perhaps what you've been lacking the most isn't strength, it's clarity. Because when you have clarity, you don't compromise your peace. You don't insist on what distances you from God. You don't call something a blessing if it's breaking you inside. And let's be direct here. There are things in your life that you've already realized don't come from God, but you continue. It continues because it's comfortable. Keep going because you're already involved. He continues because he's afraid to start over. But let me tell you something with truth and love. Clinging to something that God did not sustain will never bring you peace. It might even bring momentary pleasure. It can even bring a sense of progress, but deep down, it will remain empty. It's going to stay tough. It will remain confusing, because God does not share control of your life with that which separates you from Him. Either He leads, or you get lost trying to lead alone. And that explains a lot of what you've already experienced. Decisions that seemed right, but ended in frustration. Paths that seemed promising, but led to setbacks. Relationships that seemed like an answer, but turned into a wound. It wasn't bad luck, it was a lack of discernment at that moment. But it doesn't have to be that way anymore, because when God reveals something, it's for repositioning. When God shows something, it's for adjustment. When God confronts, it's to align. And perhaps that's exactly the moment you're living right now. A moment of alignment, a moment of awakening, a moment to decide that you will no longer call a blessing that which distances you from the presence of God. And that decision changes everything. Change your choices. It changes your relationships. Change your priorities. It changes your way of life. Because you stop looking only for what seems good, and He begins to search for what is true. And what is from God doesn't always seem easy at first. Sometimes it requires sacrifice. Sometimes it requires waiting. Sometimes it requires silence, but it always brings peace. And that's the brand peace. Not a superficial peace, but a profound peace. A peace that remains, even when not everything is perfect. It is this peace that confirms direction. It is this peace that guards the heart. It is this peace that protects your faith. Philippians 4:7 says that the peace of God surpasses all understanding. In other words, it won't always make sense to others, but inside you, it will be clear. And that's what you need to value. No need to rush, not the appearance, not the opinion of others, but the peace that comes from God. Now, let me ask you a direct question, without beating around the bush. What are you holding on to today that has already stolen your peace? Perhaps it's a decision. Perhaps it's a person. Perhaps it's the environment. Perhaps it's a habit. You know, deep down, you know. And ignoring this won't solve anything. Delaying this won't make things better. Justifying it won't change anything. There is only one way. Decide. Decide to close what needs to be closed. To decide to leave behind what did not come from God. Deciding to return to the place where His presence is a priority. And yes, this might hurt at first, but it will heal later, because everything that God guides ends in life. Now remember this phrase, because it can protect you from many mistakes in the future. Not everything that comes into your life is an answer to prayer. Some things are tests of discernment, and you need to learn how to pass these tests. Not with emotion, but with direction. No rush, but with wisdom. Not by appearance, but truthfully. So, if this message resonated with you in any way, don't let this pass by as just another video answer. It takes a position. Write in the comments, "I choose the peace of God." This is not just a phrase, it's a decision. And spiritual decisions change destinies. Leave a like so that more people can be awakened. And share this video with someone who urgently needs to develop discernment. And before you leave, subscribe to the channel to continue strengthening your discernment and your faith even more. Because whoever learns to listen to God's voice stops getting lost in what only seems like a blessing. Because the more you learn to discern, the less you hurt yourself with something that only seemed like a blessing.